Summer and Smoke is a play by Tennessee Williams, American play. It was the play that he sort of wrote before and after he wrote Streetcar Named Desire, and there are some interesting kind of links to that play in this one. It's about a young woman called Alma who grows up in a small, very, very small town, claustrophobic, lots of gossip, lots of pressure, societal pressure, and she grows up next door to a guy called John who she falls in love with, and the play focuses on a year in their life when he comes back to town after studying to be a doctor, and it sort of follows the will they, won't they of their relationship, really. It's one of those plays that's not done very much. It's sort of been overshadowed by his bigger works, but it's absolutely beautiful, and really there are so many themes in it that I find quite kind of potent now, that there's a sort of anxiety that runs underneath the whole story, which feels quite contemporary, like the kind of pressure to fit in, the pressure to do what your parents want you to do, the pressure to be a good person, to fit into society, to not step out of line and not be judged. And it's led by a 25-year-old woman, which I found quite fascinating when I came to the play. And she's an incredibly complex character. She was, Williams felt she was his finest creation. And I think that there's something in the air at the moment to do with female stories, young people's stories, this sort of sense of pressure and isolation that young people can feel. And that's sort of at the heart of the play. Loneliness and fear of being alone. And the human desire to make connection and to be loved and to be needed and to be wanted is a huge thing that runs through. And then there's also a kind of a thematic battle going on in the play, which is to do with science versus spirit, or sort of science versus religion, I guess. Alma's character is she's the daughter of a minister in the town, and John is the son of a doctor. So they're sort of both grown up with very, very different worldviews, and that's one of the reasons why they can't quite ever make it happen. The play sort of spans them exploring each other's ideologies and beginning to make their own decisions about what they think are the important things in life and whether or not those things can match up or not. This play is there's a lot in it that is to do with specifically about being in its time and that kind of pressure. So we felt like we couldn't lose that completely, but we also wanted to make the play feel fresh and feel contemporary and be accessible to a contemporary audience. So Tom Scott, our brilliant designer, has kind of come up with a world that we can play in that at once has a nod to the original context of the play, but feels very open and expansive and is a more psychological space, less realistic space. So we're sort of working in this world of approaching the play through Alma's head and through her experience of the play, and trying to sort of lead it more into that world than a real 1916 Southern American kind of pressure cooker. So we're sort of trying to keep all the elements that make the play work, but sort of strip it back to its essence and allow people to come to it and to see it afresh. I've been doing a lot of playing in the space and kind of looking at how this space can work. Been doing a lot of working with our composer, Angus McRae, creating music for the world, looking at how music speaks with text, and then also focusing on the character relationships and the detail of that. So we've sort of been going from looking very in a lot of detail around the text and the world of the text and the different people we meet and how we define them, and then to more kind of theatrical gestures of how we tell the story, what our language is going to be, where the comedy lies, and how everyone sort of links up in this space. Patsy Ferran, who plays Alma, actually she sort of went on this pilgrimage to Mississippi and went to Clarksdale where he grew up and went to New Orleans where he wrote the play, and sort of came back, and so she was able to share images and experiences of what this real place feels like, how unbelievably small it is, how on top of everyone is. And so we started to sort of look at that contemporary world of how it sort of is now, and that reflecting in the period of the play. And then we sort of started looking as well at the lyricism of Tennessee Williams' language and how he writes and how he uses punctuation and how he uses pauses, and because he kind of works in quite a specific way, like Beckett and Pinter and playwrights that use kind of breath and particular notation on the page in order to show thought changes, to show struggle, and that's been quite interesting. That's something that I feel is very, very prominent in this play, but comes across all of his plays when you start to look at them.